Hello, and welcome to the Commonwealth Club World Affairs of California. I'm Michelle Meow, a member of the Board of Governors for the club, and also I produce a program here at the club called The Michelle Meow Show. It's your A through Z covering the LGBT, LMNOP, and everyone in between. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I can't think of any more of an important time to gather, to be in community, but also to support an organization like the club. It's been around for over 120 years and was founded on this principle of being nonpartisan. It's the oldest and longest running public affairs forum in the country. It is focused on gathering thought leaders, no matter where they're from, what background, who they are, to discuss topics concerning of the public. And so I just want to be able to express that these principles are very important to us as human beings: the freedom to express ourselves, the freedom to think, the freedom to say. So without further ado, let's get our program started. I'd like to introduce to you our good friends at Red Hen Press. Let's welcome Kate Gale and Toby Harper Petrie.
We are delighted to be here today. I'm Kate Gale. I'm the founder, CEO, and publisher of Red Hen Press, and I'm delighted to be here today with Toby. And we're very grateful to the Commonwealth Club and to Michelle for welcoming us here. I will say that when Michelle invited us to have this event on 9/11, I thought, wow, it's a bit of a momentous day. But I thought, Maxine will be ready for that. I thought that's going to be okay. But in the last couple of days, I started to think, wow, this has become more of a momentous day. And so I want to say this about today. This is what I remind my young staff of, and I have been reminding them ever since the election. All of the staff at Red Hen were very much a woman-led, queer-leaning press. Everybody working there is millennial and Gen Z, and it's felt very fraught since the election. We're a small press. We're in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is a terrible place to have an arts organization, and an even worse place to have a literary arts organization. And then the NEA went away, and then the NEH went away, and a lot of other funding went away, and then the fires came and even more funding went away, including our roof. And it's just felt like 2025 was a bit of a shit show. And what I remind my staff of is what matters is how you walk through fire. Keeping a press going during this time is very challenging. Keeping a life going during this time is very challenging. Living with grace is very challenging for all of us. But we must do it. We must continue to treat each other with as much grace as we can. We must continue to create great art. And it's going to take as much generosity as possible for Red Hen to survive and for Red Hen to thrive and continue to create the kind of great books that you're going to hear here tonight. I feel very, very lucky to be working with someone like Toby Harper, who's helped me lead this team of young people. I think many times I would be at sea with some of the wild questions they come up with. And so I'm very lucky to be working with you, Toby. Thank you so much for being here with me this evening.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. I read Maxine Hong Kingston for the first time in grad school when I was here at SFSU about 10 years ago. So it's very full circle to be here today with Maxine. I've been at Red Hen now for 10 years, full-time, part-time a bit longer than that. And I am very proud to be leading this team, very happy to be leading this team. It's pretty amazing. We publish incredible books. People ask us, what's a Red Hen book like? And it's a little hard to describe, but I think of a Red Hen book as being sort of a wild book, sort of the sort of story you'll see on the dark side of the moon, something you haven't seen before. The kind of story that really lingers, the books that you think about for years to come, the stories you think about for years to come. And that's really part of why we've invited these authors here today that you'll see, because the stories that they write are the ones that really stay with you, that really sink into you, and really, carry you into the future. And speaking of the future, I am training to be the leader of Red Hen Press. Kate has been training me for many years and will train me for many more years. It's been around 30 years, so there's a lot more to learn. And I'm very excited to do that. I'm excited to be part of the future of Red Hen, and I hope you enjoy what you enjoyed today takes you into the future. And if you'd like to learn any more about being part of Red Hen or being involved with our authors or stories or events, please feel free to see me or Kate after the show. And next up, we will be introducing our moderator, Lily Huang, who will introduce our authors. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It is such an honor to be here. So thank you to Kate and Toby, and thank you to the Commonwealth for hosting us. So on September 11th, 2001, 2 planes flew into the World Trade Centers in New York City, and a third plane collided into the Pentagon, killing 2,977 people. Today is the 24th anniversary of that attack. In remembrance of the victims of the War on Terror, please take a moment of silence. Okay. Well, thank you. So at 6:50, we will look at the audience questions. Okay, so here are our writers. I think you know some of the folks on this panel. Pete Su is a Taiwanese-American author of the short story collection, If I Were the Ocean, I'd Carry You Home. He teaches creative writing at UCLA Extension Writers Program and hosts events at the historic Vroman's Bookstore in Pasadena, California. Amy Liu is the best-selling author of the novels Flash House, Cold Mountain, and Face, and the memoirs Gaining, The Truth About Life After Eating Disorders, and Solitaire. She teaches in Goddard College's MFA program in Port Townsend, Washington, and she spends the rest of her time photo painting. You'll understand this after the first question, but the U.S. Air Force Academy teaches Maxine Hong Kingston's The Woman Warrior, and it giving the women soldiers a mythos. Her favorite awards, because there are so many, are the National Humanities Medals from President Clinton and the National Medal of Arts from President Obama. I think we have all read your work, and you have influenced us so tremendously. So thank you so much. Okay, so questions. So preparing for this event, I'm sorry, this first question is a little long. The other questions won't be so long. Oh, you're reading. Yes.
I thought we were reading first.
Yes. I skipped the order because I didn't write it in. Okay, yes, please, let's read, and maybe we'll go, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lily. Yeah. That was a very nice introduction. So the last time, I'm going to read an excerpt, actually the ending of one of the stories from my book. The story is called The Fatted Calf, and it's about a mixed race kid who's grew up in Virginia. He's leaving, and he owes his neighbor some money. They don't talk anymore, but he wanted to drop by and repay the debt before he left. I last read this story on November 6th, 2024, after the last election. So it seems odd to be reading it again the day after another very large event in our American context, but so it is. So the kid's name is Princeton. The guy who's trying to repay, his name is Big J. I shifted my chair. The satchel slips a little off my lap. I catch it before it falls and then prop it up in between my knees. Big J doesn't seem to notice. He shakes his head and then says something about how Janet's really good on the guitar, and then changes the subject altogether and starts asking me about school. I realize that he doesn't know that I graduated. Oh shit, I say. I graduated. Big J, I'm done. Oh shit, he says. Well, damn it, Princeton. Congratulations. Wow. You're a college graduate. My God, congratulations. I try to apologize for not telling him. I say it's just junior college. He says he'd have liked to come to the ceremony, and I tell him there wasn't even a ceremony, even though there was one. Then he asks what I'm doing now. I don't want to get into my leaving town, so I just say that I'm going to work on my book, and he says, that's good. That one about the spaceman? Astronaut, I say, but yeah, that one. That's good. I always liked that story. Reminded me of a Twilight Zone and whatnot. This is true. I got the idea from a Twilight Zone, the one where astronauts land on a planet where everyone is frozen like statues. It turns out the planet is actually some kind of heaven where everyone spends eternity in their favorite memory, whatever that memory is. The day they won a beauty pageant, the day they became mayor, the day they fished their limit, or what have you. The only catch is they're all still dead and the whole scene is frozen like some kind of diorama, like a taxidermy display, or like one of those caveman scenes at a human history museum. You gonna make a movie of it? No, man, they wouldn't make a movie of it. Well, I'm sure you could. No, I don't think so, I say. I'm not gonna show up in Hollywood and try to sell them an old Twilight Zone, even if it is all rewritten. Hollywood? Yeah. You're going to Hollywood? Yeah. Big J frowns a little. He takes a sip of his coffee, and I do too. It's cold. He gestures to the coffee maker. I push my cup over to him. He gets up and warms both up. He takes a sip of the warmed up coffee as he's sitting back down. That's better. I sip mine too. Big J says, so Hollywood, when you taking off? Tomorrow, I say. Janet made the decision, so I'm going too. This also is not true. It is true that she mentioned it first, but I'm the one who applied to schools out there. I'm the one who found a place to live. It's as much me as her. I say, you know, Virginia's never been particularly good to me. Present company excluded, of course. Yeah, sure, he says, and then, I do understand. I know you never really took to this life. He waves a hand around. No, I haven't. Well, LA will be like a homecoming, he says, referring to how I was born in California, a ways outside Los Angeles, but we'd always just said I was from LA. Yeah, sort of, I say. You know, I've lived here now twice as long as I'd lived there. Big J says, true. Virginia always stayed kind of foreign to me, though. I guess I'm the foreign one, like a visitor, like the astronaut from my story. Well, it doesn't suit everyone. Yeah, no, I guess not. Yeah, but, well, Hollywood, Big J says, I can see that for you both, show business. Yeah, sure, I say, yeah, sure. Then I try to explain why I'm here. Even though Big J isn't asking, I apologize for coming so late, unannounced. I tell him how I'd been out late, a kind of goodbye party. Then I apologize again for not inviting him to the party. Then I apologize again for coming over so late. I don't know what's wrong with me, I say. You're always welcome here, kid. I ain't got nowhere to be. Do you need cash, he says. No, I say. No, sir, I do not. For your trip. No, sir, I say. And then, it's the opposite, Big J. I want to pay you back for that money I took from the crabbing I didn't do. He says, shit, kid, I don't need your money. It's your money. It was a loan. I'm just here to pay it back. He says, no, this is for you. He hands over a stack of $100 bills, saying, consider it an advance for your wedding. I push the money back to him and say, what are you doing? I take out my satchel and tell him I'm the one here to give him money. I take out the $400, a stack of 20s, and I put it on the table and push it towards him. I appreciate you, he says, but you don't need to worry about this. I never expected this money back, and where I'm going, I'm not going to need it. What do you mean, where you're going? It's nothing, he says. Forget what I said. Where are you going, Big J? Big J doesn't answer. I ask again, and he just keeps shrugging, as if he'd misspoke. I get up out of my chair. I pick up both coffee mugs, now both empty, and go over to the coffee maker. Big J says, it's all drank, but you know where it's at if you want to brew another pot. I'm going to stop there. Thank you, guys.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're in unthinkable times, and I think a lot of us are spending a lot of time trying to figure out what we do when various crises come at us, because they're coming at us every day. Glorious Boy is a story about a family that is torn apart by the unthinkable. 1942, they were living in British India in an island called the Andaman Islands when the Japanese arrived. And Andaman Islands were the furthest west that the Japanese occupied territory. And this family, on the day of evacuation, the mother gets on the ship that gets out, and her husband and little 4-year-old son and the girl that was taking care of the 4-year-old son are left behind. So she is now in Calcutta, and the Japanese invasion in the Andaman Islands has just happened, and this is when she learns about it. She's in a hotel. As soon as she reaches the top of the stairs, she knows. The voices ricochet up from the lobby. The bloody fucks. We're next, you know. Gave it up without a shot. Nothing but water between us and them now. And then, what do we say to... In the mirror on the landing, a pair of bespectacled eyes turns up and collides with Claire's own shattered gaze. But the stairwell is going white. She clutches the balustrade, slides to the floor. Her blood pounds so loud in her ears that she can no longer hear the soldiers downstairs. When they climb to her aid, she motions them away. The lobby's spinning, Ty's and Shep's faces popping like flashbulbs, but she makes herself stand and somehow descends. The foyer falls dead. They make her sit down, and then it's all for nothing. She's heard everything there is to know. A single bulletin on the radio. The Andaman Islands taken, sneak attack. The British authorities in Port Blair surrendered without defense. Shep, her husband, and Ty, her little boy. Shep and Ty, Shep and Ty. Their names repeat like a mantra, filling her simultaneously with longing and with terror. The phone on the front desk erupts, and a receiver is thrust into her hands. Her friend Roger on the other end. I'm trying to find out everything I can. Hold tight. Vivian will be there in a minute. He hears her silence. Claire, he says, the Japanese are bound by the Geneva Convention to protect civilians and keep children with their families, and... She hangs up without speaking. Her surroundings have straightened, but the masks of concern and speculation on the faces of her fellow boarders make her feel as if she's disintegrating. Shep and Ty. She walks through the door and across the garden, out the forecourt to Sutter Street, then Free School, and keeps going. No hat, no parasol, no purse, no idea where or why, only that she must move. Outside the hotel, men and women and children go about their mornings. The fate of her family, nothing to them. And yet, every small Indian boy appears a dead ringer for Ty. Every attentive big sister, Nyla, the girl who takes care of him. Every tall, bony Englishman, Shep. They trudge past shops, pull hand carts, squat beside sidewalk charpoys. They wear khaki, white, and pale blue uniforms, carry buckets, scream at each other, weep. Claire holds herself very still as the hallucinations well, permitting only her legs to move. Now the specters stand in the sleeve of a terrace or the frame of a doorway, off in the distance waving, but always all of them present their backs to her. Madam, a bearded man in a maroon turban and white jacket approaches. May I help? Please. Her arms ache, her eyes throb, she can't breathe. The Samaritan takes her elbow to steady her, and his touch halts the falling sensation. She looks around. College Street, a campus gate. Indian students smile up at her, laughing. These are not all students, though. Patients also lie on the grass, an outdoor waiting room filled with deathly still infants, keening mothers, hollow-eyed men and rickety boys, faces ravaged by pain and madness and loss. The young Sikh waits. "Are you a doctor?" she asks him. "Not yet, madam. Only an intern. Are you ill?" She ignores the question. "But you help them." She gestures at the patients, then, without knowing why, redirects her question. The doctors. "I assist." A look of bewilderment clouds his concern. Yes, that's it. You assist. And that makes it easier to bear." She glances at the people waiting. The man, clear, dark eyes, neatly rolled and tucked beard, a whiff of cardamom and clove, nods uncertainly. "One does what one can." "One does what one can," she repeats. Then she lifts her face and salams. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Thank you."
I'm going to read from unpublished work, something that I'm working on now. This is a diary that I kept in the spring of 2011 to the spring of 2012. This is what I wrote after a trip to the border, to the Mexican-USA border. And this trip was sponsored by the Asian American Writers Workshop. And so here are Asian American writers, and we are allies of the people crossing the border. On this eyewitness journey, we visited the morgue, and we visited refugios. We were at the border officials, government officials, on both sides of the border. We were also stopped at checkpoints. There are checkpoints on our side of the border, way inland, not at the border, but as we approach the border. Then we were also at the fence, which is what they called it at the time. It was not called the wall, it was called the fence. And it's not just one wall and not just one fence. There are layers of fencing. And so it's like a maze that you would have to go through. 3 or 4 layers, the fence like that and like that all along. I'm going to read to you one of the easy to understand scenes. I don't mean to understand it. This is one of the most orderly places at the border, and this is at the court. At this time, the court is doing streamlining. And what they mean is that we're going to deport 70 people an hour. A row of about 10 men shuffled in. They were shackled hands and feet, earbuds for hearing translators, mostly short men, brown skin, black hair, sturdy, well-fed. A Latino-looking man seated on the outside of the railing turned around and looked at us, looked at me. I nodded and looked away, but caught his nod back. There were 3 or 4 lawyers, public defenders, standing behind the shackled men. A lawyer would remove an earbud and talk privately into a man's ear. The judge, who was a pretty Caucasian blonde woman, asked a series of questions. Yes is the correct answer. The court recommends yes. I remember 3 of the questions. Are you an alien? Alien to United States of America? C, yes. C, yes. 10 C's and yeses. For detention of 105 days with credit for time served, do you agree to waive the right to a trial by jury? Yes. C. Has no one forced you to plead guilty or made any promises to you other than what we've talked about here in this court? C. Yes. My naivete is bottomless. I'm aghast that rights are like gaming chips. You're given so many chips, time, credits, jury trial, and you can trade them. And you swear that you were not coerced or pressured to play by these rules. The group of shackled men shuffled out, and a new group shuffled in. But this time there was a difference. A man answered no to waiving trial by jury. The judge asked him the question again and asked if he understood it. A lawyer took out the man's earbud and spoke to him. The judge was giving him a chance to change his mind. He said again no. The court finished the streamlining. Shuffling out of the courtroom, many of the men kept their heads turned toward us, the spectators. I felt their eyes saying, "Help." Next, we went to an amphitheater-like room, like a lecture hall classroom. A judge spoke from a table in front. Like every public official we met, he commended the state's treatment of illegal immigrants as humane. Operation Streamline is as humane as possible. Out of 1,000 people caught at the border, only 7 are put on trial and imprisoned. The rest are turned back. People with children are turned back. Those arrested are seen by the Mexican consulate and given advice. The judge was very tired. A large, heavy, coughing man. He held what looked like a plastic unlit cigarette that he put in his mouth and take out again. His other hand opened a matchbook, but he did not light up. Earl said, "He's going to die soon." Jessica Hagedorn said, "He's Shakespearean. He's tragic. I like him." The judge suffered our group's questioning of him. One of the radical Latino guys asked whether the judge, a Mexican American, was going against himself, betraying yourself and his own people. The judge gave his story, beginning with his grandfather's immigration. His family was fortunate. Grandparents, parents, himself, all fortunate. His grandfather fortunate to have come when the crossing was easier. The family made money, got educations, served in wars. He himself in Vietnam. He'd been a public defender. Not Mexican American, he said. Not this American, that American, but American. He heaved himself up from weariness to the eloquence of the orating trial lawyer, barely coughing. Teju Cole, who was sitting next to me, spoke respectfully. Thank you for speaking with us. I know you don't have to do this, and we appreciate it. Carefully, Teju got around to asking how the judge feels seeing all this human suffering every day. The judge did not reveal his feelings, only told how he handles them. He has a time limit to his exposure to suffering. I spend 26 minutes a day streamlining. Someone observed that one of the streamlined men had grass in his hair. Are they disoriented and wounded coming out of the desert into court? The judge said, I can't criticize a man's grooming habits, but they do not come straight from the desert to the courtroom. They are checked medically. They get fed. They get water, a place to sleep. Their consulate speaks to them. The lawyers speak to them. There are translators. At least 2 days of preparation before they come into the courtroom. Jessica Hagedorn asked after the man who pleaded no. What's going to happen to him? The judge said, he's basically screwed. He screwed himself. He could have gotten away with 105 days in detention camp. Now he's going to get 2 to 5 years. Somebody said later, detention camp, immigration prison. I didn't even raise my hand to be recognized to speak. I just spoke up loud from near the back of the room. What about the jury trial? What if he's found innocent? You'd have to let him go. The judge said there's no way he will be found innocent. A judge said that. The judge prejudged. He already knows the man is guilty. He will get 2 to 5. Patiently educating us, he reviewed the process. The Border Patrol picks up a group of immigrants and sorts them out. You with the kids, you go back. You who've been seen entering the country without documents, you go to court. At court, you're offered a plea bargain. You can plead guilty to a misdemeanor, a small thing, not having papers. That man who pleaded no will be charged with a felony, illegal immigration. No way will he be found innocent. The Border Patrol witnessed him committing that crime. He broke the law the moment he stepped across the border. Crim migration, say the activists, who made up a word for criminalizing the attempt to cross the border. So why did he plead no, said the judge rhetorically. He's hoping. Hope is the last to die. Yes, I know what that man was hoping. He will have 12 men and women hearing him out. He can have more to say than yes or no. He'll get to tell his whole story. His wife gone, his father ill, his children hungry. The listener's heart will melt, and they'll help him. The streamlined people are locked up in private prisons run by CAA, Corrections Corporation of America. I know what those jails look like from the movie The Witness. Be on the lookout for anonymous, unmarked, nondescript buildings camouflaged among shops, offices, storage facilities. They are jails. We kept up our questioning of the judge, his sentencing, his applying the law, his following orders. Why can't he be an activist judge? Thrice he pointed at us and reiterated, if you don't like it, you change it. It's up to you. He kept explaining that he doesn't make the law, we do. I can't let one go and not let all go. You may not believe it, but I am the easiest judge. Somebody asked about NAFTA. whether it made things worse. The judge said, no, NAFTA makes no difference. How open and free and efficient the crossing is, said the judge, when we want something. We transport wild turkeys and gray wolves and money, and tomatoes and vegetables. His cigarette hand moved back and forth, indicating many things and creatures passing back and forth. But we can't find a way to transport people. We want gray wolves, we transport gray wolves. We can't transport people. The judge had an answer for every but, an answer for everything, for every argument. All loopholes sewn up. So, as I prepared to go to the border, I thought about what can I do? What can I bring to these people? And so I heard a story, and I heard that when people are trying to cross the border from Mexico into the U.S., they go through desert, and sometimes they go across the river. And when things get really bad, when they are in extremis, there is a man that appears to them. And this man says to them that he will help. He gives them water, he gives them food, and he also tells them what path to take, and he gives them some ideas about where to go when they arrive in the U.S. And then he says, when your life goes well and you have accomplished what you want, and when you return to Mexico, go to the Santa Ana de Guadalupe Church, and there give thanks and tell them what you have been through. Okay, so I have heard that some people have actually made that journey and returned and went to that church. And when they went there, they saw a picture of that man that helped them. And he his name was Toribio Romo. And he was killed during a war between the church and the state. That was in the 1920s. And he is now Saint Toribio Romo. So when I found this out, I went to International Boulevard, and I went to some Catholic churches, and I found holy cards for Saint Toribio Romo. I also found some medals with that saint. I also heard that the bones of Toribio Romo were traveling through the Central Valley, and they came to my hometown, Stockton. And so I collected holy cards, and I collected medals, and I took them to the border, and I passed them out to any immigrants that I might meet, and I left them at the refugios for for people to pick up, and they did pick them up because when wandering around town, I saw that where I had put the holy cards had disappeared. Then when I got home, I happened to be shopping at the CVS store for, things that we get at the CVS store. And I found a candle to the Father Toribio Romo, to Saint Toribio Romo. CVS store is selling these. This is good news. Isn't that really great news? That we are getting support from CVS store? And so I want to read to you the prayer. Oh, Toribio Romo is now called the Saint of Immigrants, the Saint of Immigration. And this is the prayer to the Saint of Immigration. This is called Prayer for the Immigrant. Holy Father, you who sent your Son to proclaim the kingdom of heaven among us, he who is obedient to your wishes and carries out the mission that you have entrusted, we ask through the intercession of Santo Toribio Romo for the caring and protecting of our family who have had to leave the house. Since the world outside looks to overcome them and our families, protect them from all evil, and that they remain firm in faith so they can soon return to our home, strengthened in the soul and body, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. What strikes me in that prayer is they're praying for the protection of those leaving home and looking forward to when they're coming back. So this prayer isn't saying they're going to come north and take our jobs and stay forever. They're just, they should not be just called immigrants. They should be called refugees. Every immigrant I know came as a refugee, and that includes my parents. And those places that are helping out are called refugios. So the prayer is for them to come to this lifeboat and get some help and then bring it back to the people back home. Okay, so you can hear. I have a match. Should we light this? Are we allowed to light in this hall?
I don't know. Michelle, can we light this?
Can we, Michelle, can we light the candle?
Hey, you want me to start a fire?
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to do.
No, I will see. I'll check in. But we got some questions too.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do some cute.
Yeah, well, we have questions that we haven't looked at all. So yeah, I can't read these. These are a little too fast.
What do you think? We have
Let's see. These are great questions, but I think maybe. Yeah, thank you. It is more an issue of time. Actually, I think this is a great. We'll do this, and then maybe we can turn to the audience. So, children play a vital and vibrant role in all of your books. Call me sentimental, but I believe children are pure geniuses. But then school comes in to discipline and to punish until their creative capacity is smothered, making them good, functional, productive members of society. Before that, though, children play with sprawling imagination and creativity. They witness. But what they see and what I or any other adult see are totally different things. They speak with truth and wisdom and naive innocence. Sometimes that truth and wisdom and naive innocence cuts into cruelty. How do you use children in your fiction? What goes into your decision to make a character a child as opposed to an adult? And what does the inexperience of childhood offer for a potential character? Do you see that changing in today's socio and geopolitical climate?
The glorious boy.
Yeah, I think I have two thoughts on that. One has to do with the importance of attunement, which is the connection between parents and young children. In the very beginning, it's part of what makes a child feel secure and connected to the world, and emotionally secure. And I think very often that attunement is broken in families, and I think a lot of what we're seeing today can be traced back to problems with attunement very early on, having to do not just with the relationship with parents, but the circumstances, poverty, addiction, a lot of the issues that we write about in our stories. So I think that one of the reasons children are so important is that they, what happens to them as a child affects who they grow up to be and what kind of a society we have. As far as writing, I think that one of the reasons that I sometimes use children in my work, and I think Pete can identify with this too, is what Michael Ondaatje calls the orphan state and the value of the orphan state. There's a reason that orphans are so often depicted in literature, from Roald Dahl to Dickens to the Greeks and the Romans. And Ondaatje, in his last book, Warlight, wrote, "The orphan state is essential for memoir in particular. So what is missing in you and the things that you have grown cautious and hesitant about will come almost casually toward you. It's that state of that an orphan has of being alone in the world with fresh awareness and vulnerability and recognition." And I think that duality of a child that's connected and a child that's disconnected is an incredibly powerful idea for literary writers to reckon with, because I think it's at the base of so much of our world is, are we connected or are we disconnected? And it affects how we see each other and how we see the world and how we behave. So that's a few of my thoughts about children.
I had not been aware of that concept or that idea of the orphan state in literature, but it totally makes sense. I'm sure the next iteration of that is like Disney films, which seem to always have an orphaned protagonist. I had never thought about this question, like, why do I write a lot of kids in my stories?
They're in a lot of your stories.
And I first thought was, well, I had kids in my life while I was writing them, so I just wrote about the people that were in my life. But I think there is something actually really core to the process of writing literature, writing fiction in particular, and this orphan state idea, this idea of like, where does the break of innocence or naivete happen? So there's always some like breaking moment in a story where the character can either confront their innocence or ignorance, whatever that is, and change their worldview and become transformed, or they can double down on their old worldview and remain in ignorance/innocence. So that crux is a very interesting crux for me, both And I think with kids, with writing about kids, it's much more like salient. It's very, very present because you can understand an innocent child with a moment of awareness. But I think with all stories that I write, and probably most stories that are written and explored, they have that concept in them.
I think maybe there's something about like children and it being forgivable, right? To choose the ignorance or to choose innocence, whereas as adults, it's a little less forgivable.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
The experience is different as a reader, right? You feel we're left with something different.
I just became a grandmother, and so I am so aware of the children having just come into the world, and everything is new. And I see that children have so much ability and talent, and they're experimenting with everything, and they practice all the arts. They are singing and dancing, and any instrument they pick up, they try it. They drum and they try sports. And as soon as and if you give them paint, they are painting and they are writing. As soon as they get language, they are writing. And they're saying something. I don't know where this comes from. My little grandson at the age of, in a baby voice, what number is infinity? And, well, I tried to explain, and I was saying, well, it's forever and forever and forever. And then he said, until you die. Wow. And then my granddaughter, she is learning language. She's learned to read, and here's a poem. Let's see. Girls go to college and get knowledge. Boys go to Jupiter and get stupider. and so, okay, I have been a teacher all the way from. I have taught grammar school, middle school, college, graduate school. I've done the whole thing, and what I have seen is that the children have lots of talent, lots of creativity, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And okay, here's an example. I know a graduate student in biology. He said, I wanted to learn science, and now I'm an expert on one shrimp off the coast of Oahu. So what happens to us, our creativity, we become specialized because we have to, and we cut out everything else. So I just read something about people who create. They said we stay childish. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's a secret.
Actually, okay, so we have these great questions. I think I'm going to skip my reading, and we're going to end on one question, if that's okay. Okay, so this comes from the audience. In this world of shortening attention spans and less time spent reading long-form prose, what are your hopes as an author for future readers? Shall I read it again?
Yeah.
Time? Okay, so in this, I actually was going to end it with a question on hope. So, in this world of shortening attention spans and less time spent reading long-form prose, what are your hopes as an author for future readers? It's a great question.
It's a really good question. I'm just going to jump in real quick.
Please.
I have maybe a simple answer to it. I think it's kind of like a democratization of what is good to read. And so I love like literary fiction. That's like what I love to consume. But fan fiction is maybe like something that a lot of people can read and get into. It's a world they already understand and they can just tap into it. There is no like gatekeeping at all. It's just posted. So I think that's kind of my answer. It's like accepting the whole wide breadth of written stuff that's being put out there.
I just hope it remains human. I mean, my fear is with AI writing so much that people will get used to reading what AI puts out, and they will not know the difference between AI-generated and human-generated. And that's my big fear in terms of what's out. It's less about the attention span and the length, and more about the quality of the work and the depth of the work. And I don't know, we can keep writing the best that we can, and we can keep, trying to crank up enthusiasm and interest and connection with the readers that we can reach. But it does sometimes feel like there's just a tsunami coming that is completely out of our control.
But I think that if you read things that ChatGPT writes, right, it's quite different than what anyone on the stage writes.
It is now.
It is
but
now.
I'm talking about next week, next month, next year.
So maybe the hope is that it remains that way, and that our art can remain something that cares about the sentence and cares about human emotion and touches something special.
I don't know that the attention span is getting shorter. I notice that, again, having my grandchildren beginning to read now, they're looking at thick books. I see them sit there for a long time. There's a lot of argument about screen time, and the parents work very hard to limit their screen time. And my grandson just said to me, "I'm going to miss you because you let me watch television." And so, but I see that he watches television, but he also reads books. And I think in reaction to short attention span, or to a lot of the visual taking our attention, notice that graphic novels are big right now. They are winning Pulitzer Prizes.
They are.
And they are great literary work. And for those, for images or ideas, visions that we can't think of the words for right away, they draw a picture, and just that melding of the visual and the literary, it's produced great work. Another thing, notice that poems are very short, and lately I've been doing a lot of haiku. In fact, we're having a haiku party pretty soon. It's coming at the next PMLA meeting. And 17 syllables. And also, I've been telling everybody, including my students, about great Chinese traditions. There's such a thing as the 4-word poem. And there's 7-word poems. There's 5-word poems. And so we've got the literature to go with short attention spans. Haiku.
The lighter. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, I think on that note, you can light it, and thank you all for coming. Thank you, Commonwealth. And thank you, panel.